Okay, so it's been a minute. I wish I could say I've been taking this time off to create the most amazing game that ever was. I'm actually back with a game that's much shorter and has dramatically worse graphics, but it's a game that I made, and I'm gonna talk about the process of it because I think that's interesting. I'm gonna make a lot of references to the previous game I made, so that's the only other video on this channel. Okay, I can't find the exact date because the computer I originally made this on is no longer with us, but I think I originally started this project like 2 or 3 years ago. It was like one of my first projects I was trying to do outside of just following a straight up tutorial that was create a game start to end. My approach to creating it originally was like, I'm just going to combine a bunch of tutorials. So I'll do a movement tutorial, and then I'll do an enemy AI tutorial, and then I'll do a shooting tutorial, and I'll just slam those all together into a project. Then it'll be a game. But the thing is, if you just slam a bunch of tutorials together and you aren't a good enough programmer to know how to like connect them so that they function together, it tends to get really frustrating really fast. I don't think it was a bad approach I took. It was just never actually going to result in a finished game. But the concept of this game is, I guess 2 or 3 years ago, I was in my Broadway musical phase, and I transitioned from my Broadway musical phase into an emo music phase, which I don't think that's any better. But I started to get really into the Evil Dead musical, which exists. It's an obscure musical based on an somewhat obscure horror franchise. I think I saw the musical before I ever saw the Evil Dead movies. That's almost exactly correct. But I got really into the musical. I made all this fan art for it. I was thinking, especially the musical is based on the first 2, 3 Evil Dead movies. And I was thinking, I was watching it, I was like, this would be a really good structure for a game, because the whole plot of Evil Dead is like a group of young people go to a cabin for spring break, and then they get possessed by demons, and then they gotta survive the night. I was thinking, like, the way the musical works is basically people talking, demon attacking, and then go back to people talking, and then go back to a demon attacking. So it's like, that's just like a wave-based video game. It wasn't as intimidating because I wasn't starting from scratch. I had a basic plot structure to go off of, the basic plot of like the movies and the musical, and I could just like put a game on top of that. So that's what I started to do, and it was all going pretty well from my memory until I hit a roadblock with the dialogue system. It was very important to me to have a dialogue system with character portraits and choices. I wanted you to be able to make choices in dialogue that would, at the very least, affect what the dialogue after would be. So I started looking around for tutorials, and I had this mindset at the time, which isn't an awful mindset to have, but it was like, I have to make everything from scratch. I want my work to be my own. I don't want to feel like, oh, I made this game, but I didn't really, which you could say, why am I using an engine? Because that's somebody else's code, so that you can't really extrapolate that logic too far. But I did not want to use any plugins for dialogue or anything, so I started trying to find tutorials for dialogue systems, and all the ones that I was finding from like Brackeys and stuff was like really, really basic, like no choices, no portraits, no anything. And I didn't want that. I didn't like it. So yeah, I quit production of the game because I did not know how to do dialogue in Unity, and that made me sad because I didn't want to make a game if I couldn't make dialogue. At some point, Godot called me home. It's warm embrace, the warm robot man embrace. It's like, come home, your life will be much better if you're coding in Python, and your life will also be a lot easier if you get over yourself and use a fucking plugin for dialogue. So that's where we are. I've been wanting to resume work on this game. I mean, I never really stopped thinking about the game. It was always something like on the back burner that I wanted to go back to it eventually. I still thought that Evil Dead was a good property to adapt. That idea I still thought was good. I thought it still had potential. So April of 2025, I believe, is when I created the project. I had made a bunch of art assets the first go around of making this game, and a lot of those made it back into the game. Notably, there were hardly any animations, just like a god-awful walk cycle for the main character. But yeah, I had done some animations, but they left something to be desired. So I had a lot of stuff I wanted to redo, but I didn't want to redo everything because this was more so meant to be a restoration rather than a remake. Also, another notable thing about the original version was the glorious soundtrack, because I was still in the mindset that I had to do everything myself or else it was cheating. I was like, I'll take a crack at composing my own music, because you can't have an indie game without that great soundtrack tag on Steam, so that every time someone reviews my game, they can always say, the game has an amazing soundtrack, or else you're not a real indie game. So I had to do that myself. Yeah, a fun fact about me is, so I actually took piano lessons for like 10 years. I know how to read and write sheet music, so I actually had probably a leg up to like most indie devs. So I went into, there was some like online music composing software, because I didn't want to actually buy a real one or learn how to use a real one. So I made a couple tracks for the game, and they were interesting. avant-garde would be a good way to describe them. I like how there's no tempo. Metronomes are my mortal enemy. I will not use them and I will not stand by them. I won't accept the limitations they put on my craft. I don't know why I was composing music before I had written a single line of dialogue, but that was the order I decided to do things in. So for this go around, I just decided to accept I can just get some royalty-free music. It's fine. Royalty-free music exists for a reason. Unfortunately for this project, an issue that I had now, I did not have during the original creation, is that there's so much AI music. So, I went on, fucking Pixabay to get the music, and, I have no idea if anything's AI. I don't know how to tell if just background music is AI. So if there's AI music in the current version of this game, I'm sorry, I don't know how to tell. So I was really bad about, documenting the early process of making this game, because I wasn't sure if I'd actually finish it, so I didn't want to make it, a whole thing. But it looks like I created the project about April 5th, but I didn't really start any real work on it until July 6th. And I also don't have any real footage of, the first stages of development. I get really nervous if I'm being screen recorded. Even though I can literally edit out whatever I want, writing and coding, I'm scared people are gonna look at my code and think it sucks ass. Yeah, I don't know. So I don't like screen recording, and I will stop screen recording if I'm not very confident I know what I'm doing. So whatever footage you're seeing is probably not what I'm currently talking about. So I took a similar approach to coding this early on that I did the first time, where I did it just one feature at a time. First added player movement, then enemy movement, then combat, and then the most important thing for me was dialogue-based coding. So I started using the Dialogic plugin, same as Rescued, my lord and savior. Dialogic, I love you so much. And programming this in the early stages was actually kind of satisfying, because I would have memories of the first time I made this game and how difficult it was to do just very basic things. Just a lot less frustrating, because I was out of tutorial hell at this point. So the really important thing for me with developing this version of the game, letting gameplay coincide with dialogue moments. So I wanted a character to be able to say a line of dialogue, and then the character would be able to move during the dialogue, or I would be able to send signals through the dialogue to get combat to start after dialogue was over, get sound effects to play. But the last game I made, Rescued, basically had 3 scripts in the entire game. There was probably under 500 lines of code in that entire project. It was literally just movement and starting dialogue. That was the only code that needed to exist. So this is the first real game I've made that's had combat, which I hate programming combat. I don't know why I keep making combat games if I fucking hate programming combat. I don't like playing combat games. So yeah, there was just a lot of new stuff this game. This is the first gamey game I've ever made. The last game I made was just a glorified visual novel. So yeah, this is very new for me. It's a little spooky putting out in the world, because I feel it's gonna not be good, but But this game is also, I think, a huge improvement on my last one, because I'm not doing dialogue like a fucking idiot now. So with the previous game, Rescued, the thing you see in most games is if you're talking to an NPC, your character is forced to stop. You can't move around while there's a dialogue box up. So in Rescued, I would send a signal every time with a 0 at the start of every dialogue to stop the character, and then a 1 at the end so that they can move again. So every single timeline, every individual conversation, I would have to send a signal for a 1 and a 0, individually type that every single time. And this caused 90% of my issues during bug testing, because I would accidentally type an O or something instead of a 0, and then the entire game would crash, or you would never be able to move again. Yeah, I just did it in a lot smarter of a way this time. And this was actually, all the programming was pretty smooth on this one. I did not run into as many brick walls as I did previous games. God, I am sitting in such an uncomfortable position. So it took me a month-ish to kind of get all the basic systems in place. I got a system so that you could transition scenes with dialogue, just getting the game to just progress from one scene to the next via either gameplay or dialogue was really important. And it took a minute, but I was able to eventually get that all set up. So once I had all the basic systems in place, everything I needed to get the game moving, so the next step was to write all the dialogue, and then I just lost all fucking motivation. I kept notes for each day I worked on the game, and the notes get real depressing during this point. So I was in a really big pit of just feeling time was evaporating, I was wasting all my time on this planet and there's nothing I could do. I wasn't dating the entries of my work, so I have no idea how far apart these are. So it wasn't until I'm assuming this is weeks later. I literally had finals, like this is May. So I switched from procrastinating working on the game with procrastinating studying for finals. So I actually started being really productive on the game during this time to avoid studying for finals, which is a very hard strategy to recreate, but it was weirdly effective. I did end up graduating somehow, but Jesus Christ. Oh, I started screen recording around this time. That's nice. Okay, but it looks like on day 15 of working on this game, which does not mean I'd spent 15 days, that's probably like a month in, I wrote the first sentence of dialogue. And also in Dialogic, there is no spell checking. I have to just spell check based on vibes or copy and paste every single line into a spell check. But I think I hit a brick wall during this time because it was like I had to actually start doing creative stuff. Writing the entire plot was just too open-ended for me to have any real motivation. But like once I got into the groove of it, it went pretty well. So it took me probably like 3 or 4 weeks to write the game, and I was very slow going. This could have taken a lot less time, but I am mostly happy with how it turned out, I think. I don't know. I'm kind of scared to read at this point. I also have not touched or read Rescued since I released it. I have like no memory of what the plot of that game is. I don't remember. And it's wild, that's literally the previous video on this channel, and I don't remember jack shit about it. Alright, so let's talk about the writing process. I was adapting the Evil Dead musical, which in itself was adapting the first 2 Evil Dead movies and a little bit of the third. And the thing about that is that I wanted the script to be mostly original for this game. Like, I didn't want to just be, like, copy-pasting in lines from the musical, like, verbatim, taking word for word. I kind of wanted it to be in my own words, in my own style. So I just did not rewatch or consult the musical or the movies. I still haven't watched them in like years. So I was just kind of going off the memory of what I think happened to like avoid accidentally plagiarizing. So it's more of like me playing a game of telephone with the musical or the memory of a musical. I did change quite a bit. I think I changed some of the characters' personalities. I know I cut a lot of things out. I know the most tragic cut I made of the entire thing is that there's a scene in both the movie and the musical where the demons like possess his friends one by one, and then it's just Ash left, the main character, and they possess his hand. So like his hand still attached to his body like starts attacking him, and then it ends with him like cutting off his hand with a chainsaw and then like duct taping the chainsaw to his hand. And I remembered that scene because how could you forget that scene? I was like, how the fuck am I gonna put this in the game? First, I've got to animate a hand. I've got to create whole new models for handless Ash and handful Ash. So I just like cut that whole thing, which was pretty tragic. That was out of just pure laziness. So I am aware of that scene, and I am also disappointed in myself for cutting it. So I started having like kind of an existential crisis at this point in the writing stage, because like I'm moving out in a couple weeks now, so I guess it would have been like a month or so away at this point during the process, and it was like, okay, I'm about to move into a whole new stage of my life, and if I don't finish this game now, I never will. I started this game 3 years ago in this same house. I'm about to leave it. This is my last shot to get this done and to fulfill 16-17-year-old me's dream of having an Evil Dead game. So that kind of adds some motivation, or I think probably add more stress. I did get it done in time, spoilers, so I guess that's nice. But like for the sake of time, a lot of stuff got cut. The musical is like 2 hours long, and this game takes like 20-30 minutes to get through. So like, and there's just a lot of things that play really well and are really funny in like a musical that don't play in a non-voice acted game. So there's just a lot of jokes, a lot of bits that I remembered that I was like, that's just not gonna work at all. I remember there's this whole bit in like the musical where like one of the characters dies, but he keeps talking to Ash when he's dead. It's like the actor on the floor. I'll like show clips because I'm not making sense.
You're gonna have to ignore your dying wish and open that cellar door! Dude, I told you!
But it's like he keeps like insulting the main character while he's supposed to be dead, and it's like a joke like that only works on stage. So I had to kind of think about like, would this actually work at all in a game? And in cutting shit, making the plot just shorter, there are a few characters that were like functionally useless. At the halfway point of the game, there's like 3 new characters that are introduced, and then 2 of the 3 characters get killed back to back, and it's like they could just not exist and nothing would change. So, but it looks like I finished writing the game on about July 15th, a little over a month after like true development had begun. And at this stage in development, I like lost all motivation because like all the fun stuff was done. Like all I had left at this point was doing a bunch of animation and figuring out how to do sound, because I had never really done sound for a game before. Like the Rescued, the game before this, had like 2 sound effects and I think a single music track that just looped throughout the entire game. So I wanted there to be fight music and then like in between levels music and like dramatic music. And I wanted to be able to switch the music with code, and I had never really done that for a game before. And it wasn't that bad. I don't know. I built it up in my mind so much. It was not that hard. I just didn't want to learn how to do something because I don't like looking up tutorials, because I'm really bored and I just want to figure out stuff myself. But the really hard part was animation, because I am bad at animation. I don't know how to do it and I don't like it. Luckily with this was one of those things where once I started doing it, it became a lot easier. I found some good reference photos and I'm generally happy with how the animations came out, especially the ones for Ash. A big change is that I had an iPad before, but I got a Mac. So then I could like screen mirror my iPad and my Mac, so I could use a stylus to draw an A sprite, which made it so much easier. I was drawing with a mouse for the original game for all the pixel art. I mean, I know there are plenty of people out there that do all the pixel art with a mouse, and you are God's strongest soldiers, because I don't know how y'all do that. I had to redo all of Ash's walking animations because they look like shit, and I had to do all the attack animations for all the demons and for Ash, and I think I also redrew a couple of sprites, most notably Cheryl, because her original one was looking a little rough. Another notable change I made to the gameplay was in the original version, there was a shop system, and I was gonna be like, okay, so when you killed the demons, you get a certain amount of money, and then you can spend that money on a shop, and you can just buy all these upgrades. You can save up to buy items or buy ones immediately. I also had that there were a limited number of bullets, so you could like buy more bullets, buy more health, that kind of thing. And then I realized that doesn't really make sense for this kind of game. Like, this game's short, and there's not like that many fight sequences. Like, it's all like scripted. There's not like infinitely spawning enemies. So having like currency doesn't really fit. So I switched it to a dare I say Hades inspired system, where at the end of most fighting sequences or before big ones, there's a shop and you get like 1 of 2 choices, where it's like you can either upgrade this or this. You can either have more health or the enemies can have less health, stuff like that, which I guess is more like Deus Ex? So I switched the system to, I think, a much more simple and fitting system. In retrospect, now finishing the game, I don't think the shop system really needs to exist at all, but I think it's fun. The shop is a little dancing tree. That's the shopkeeper, and I like the dancing tree. So he stayed. He got to stay because he's just so gosh darn cute. Don't you want to just pinch those branches? I'm gonna stop talking now. So that felt like an improvement, and I felt a little proud of myself. It's like, man, I'm a real game designer now. I know how to balance things, which I do not. This game is not balanced. The combat feels like shit still. This game, yeah, warning if you do decide to play this game, which I do like how the plot turned out and stuff like that. The combat is, it's nothing special, I'll tell you that much. I also had kind of a crisis during the animation where I was like, why am I even using pixel art? I think I got a sprite because every game tutorial I was following, every indie dev I was watching, every indie game I was playing was using pixel art. So it's like, I gotta use it because everyone else is. I mean, pixel art's fine. I like it, I guess. And it's very easy to edit, which is nice for like making on-the-fly changes to stuff. Like, it's a very convenient medium to use. But I don't know. I'm yet to really get my own style for pixel art, I guess. And I do enjoy making it. It's just, it doesn't quite speak to me. I'm either gonna have to use pixel art even more to like kind of develop my own style, or switch away from it, which would take a lot longer to do everything hand-drawn like I did for Rescued, because 90% of the time that I spent on Rescued was just on the art. The more time I'm spending on art, the less time I'm spending learning how to program. So once I finished the animation, implemented the sound, and I was basically done. I had to do the main menu, but the bug testing went so much smoother. Oh my god. I think there were only like 2 or 3 big issues that I ran into that took like under half an hour to solve each. It only took me like 2 or 3 hours to bug test, when it took me like 8-hour day for Rescued, because there were so many issues because I programmed Rescued like a fucking idiot. It's a crying shame that I don't have access to the project anymore, because I would like to see the code for it. But yeah, this was definitely a really, really cathartic experience to like finally finish something that I had constantly saying like I'll get around to it for years, and actually finishing it. So I'm definitely proud of myself in the sense of finishing it. And I am decently proud of how the game turned out. I do recommend people play it. It's pretty short. If it was longer, I don't think I would. It's just the actual like gameplay that's bad, which, you know, it's a game, so you think that would be an issue, but it's like more about the plot, I guess. I don't know. I mean, it's not bad. It's just not actively good. It's out there. Well, people can take it how they want. But while I'm on the topic of abandoned projects, I was like, okay, banged out, Rescued in a month, because that was the whole thing. I set myself a month-long timeline for creating Rescued. I did not set a deadline for myself with this game, which is probably why it took so damn long. It was like, okay, I finished Rescued, I'm gonna just bang out another game. And I almost did. I got super far in this game. I think I called it Spooky Debt. It was going to be this fun, like, Halloween, cozy Halloween game, because I love, like, I, like, watch Scary Godmother, like, every year, because I just love that aesthetic. So I was, like, super inspired by Scary Godmother. It was going to be, like, all about this monster party that it was going to be, like, an adventure game. I made a ton of art for it. I had a bunch of notes for it. I had the whole plot structure mapped out, and I was maybe, like, I think I could have finished it within, like, another 2 weeks of work, maybe. So there's another abandoned game out there that is just, I'm going to show footage of it, because I want to finish this. I am moving out to campus in like 2 weeks, but I'm gonna have free time then. Like, I could still realistically work on this game. I really hope that the next upload on this channel is not years away, because I want to finish Spooky Debt so bad, because I still like it so much. And I've proven to myself that a game is never truly abandoned. Yeah, that sounds like a good way to end the video. Maybe subscribe. I don't know. Hopefully I'll upload again. I don't know. This is just kind of to keep myself accountable. I don't want to start a new game before finishing that one. Do it for him. Do it for Spooky Debt. Look how sick this looks. Look how sick it could look. Be hyped for it. That's all I got. Sorry if this video is a mess. I forgot how to structure things. Bye-bye.